Ready, G?
Yeah. All right, we've got an exciting episode tonight. We've got Dimitri Moraitis with us. He's the author, the co-author as well, of Heaven and Your Spiritual Evolution, A Mystic's Guide to the Afterlife and Reaching Your Highest Potential. Fantastic book. It's great to have you on and chat about it. Thanks for joining us, Dimitri.
Well, thanks for having me on your show. It's a delight.
Yeah, it's really interesting timing. I've been talking to some people about mystics and adepts training in the astral realm, and then I was reading. I'm thinking,
goodness.
I wonder if it's from this book, like that they were talking about it. But it's very interesting. Book. We've been reading some of Blavatsky's stuff as well recently, so it kind of fits in. It kind of fits in with. It's very interesting. A lot of the learning that we've been doing here. So I mean, I guess maybe let's start with the basic question of like why did you decide to write this book?
To write the book, yeah. Well, it's actually part of a series of books that we've written on the 7 spiritual arts, and this one is based, like you say, on this idea that there is a great beyond. And there are realms in the spiritual world, and we're kind of part of those realms now. And a lot of our work is based on what Barbara has experienced, through her clairvoyant experiences of actually being in these realms. We actually are familiar with them. We kind of came from them before we were born, and we're connected to them now. We're going to go home to them again. So, we kind of think of the other side as a place when we die, but it really is connected to our life now. And interesting, you're having discussions about the astral worlds. Those are very important realms. They're literally the next realm from here. When we go from here, we're going into those astral realms. So it might be a good idea to learn about them now.
Yeah. So how do we be, because you were mentioning before we started recording, like we were talking about, the astral realm and how you might be learning from that realm already, or you might be going there at night, or you might be going there and not really being fully aware or realizing it.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. One of the key notes of the whole book, since we came from those spiritual worlds, we're part of them now. Teilhard de Chardin said, we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're in this physical world, but we're spiritual. So we've always been part of those worlds. We're going back to them, but we're connected to them now. Now, there's several ways we're connected to them now. One is through inspiration, which we can talk about a little later, but you hit on a very important note about sleep. I don't know if this is going to sound strange or surprising to some, but often when we sleep, yes, our physical body's at rest, our mind is at rest, but our soul can be quite active. And many times we're closer to the spiritual worlds at night while we sleep. And there are times periodically, we may not bring any memory of this, where we're literally taken into those realms to kind of keep us connected to those worlds. And they also help us with important decisions that we're making, or if we're very sick and need healing. The idea is we're supported throughout our whole journey here. It may not feel like it at times, but we are.
So I guess one of my main questions, of course, is how do we, if we want to bring more awareness to being in these realms, how are some of the ways that we would go about doing that? Because, it seems very ambiguous to people, right? I mean, all these astral realms, these heavenly realms. I mean, you guys go through all the different sort of not necessarily layers, but what would you call it? I guess dimensions. Yeah.
No, the Bible talks about my Father's house are many mansions. What many people don't realize is the other side isn't one place, it's many places. There are many dimensions, and there are real places that you can actually be part of and visit, but there are also states of consciousness. Earth is kind of a melting pot. You can have, let's say, a Mahatma Gandhi standing next to an Adolf Hitler, and they could be physically in the same room, even though their vibrations may be vastly different. But you wouldn't find that quite as much on the other side. You're going to find yourself in a spiritual realm, not necessarily with people like you, but people with similar vibration. And as far as connecting with them, well, one of the basic things, and this is for any aspect of the spiritual life, is meditation. Your ability to start meditating, which it's sort of you taking a pause from the activities of life to go to the inner part of you and commune with that inner part of you, get that inspiration you need, and then go back into active life and put it into use. So we recommend in all our training classes, everything we do, meditate daily. Make it a daily part of your life, and don't make it, at the end of the day when you're exhausted. Do it when you're in full alert, and in a sense build your day around it, and you'll notice everything is kind of flowing better, and you will be more in touch with inspiration.
Right. And what kind of meditation are we talking about here?
Well, there are many different kinds. The kind that we practice is called meditating with divine light. So what we do is we work a lot with our auric field. So the aura, some people think, auras are like green, I'm blue, you're green, someone else is pink. No, we're multifaceted, and the energy of your aura is literally fueling your evolution. And you can call in more of that power. So let's say I don't have a lot of confidence right now. Maybe I have to ask for a promotion at my job or something. And I don't have the guts to go in there and ask for it. In the aura, confidence comes through as this brilliant gold light. So you can literally meditate, ask that gold light to come into your aura. You still have to go there and ask for the raise, but you'll notice you may have more confidence because the energy of that confidence is more part of you.
And actually, you do have some of those meditations in the back of the book, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I gotta say, if I had to pick an aura for you right now, it would be gold.
Oh, well, I guess I'm kind of wearing a little yellow.
That's Darren's first aura reading ever.
There we go. Sounds great.
Am I hired? Did I get the job?
You guys do mention it's very non-denominational, right? It's very non-dogmatic. It's
right.
because you do talk about heaven, and you do talk about some of the ancient religions and the
right.
ancient philosophies, but it's not like it seems very open to non-dogmatic principles, I guess.
Well, you're talking a little bit about Blavatsky. I love her quote, "There's no religion higher than truth."
Yeah.
And we have to look at religions as like different facets of a same jewel. One practice may emphasize one thing, another, but they're really, if you take away kind of the maybe institutional part of it and just look at the spirit of it, they're all part of the same picture, and they're all really aiming for the same thing, but a different way of doing it. So, some people think, heaven is a religious topic, but it's not. Heaven is a human potential topic, and it's a spiritual topic. As our first chapter in the book says, you don't go to heaven, you grow to heaven. It's an evolutionary process. So I'm a good boy, I'm going to go to heaven. I'm a bad boy, I'm going to go somewhere else. It's not really like that. It's more like attracting like. So right now we're all vibrating at a certain level in our auric energy. If I had to transition today, if I went home today, I'd take the light I have today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, and that would determine where I go. So I'd find a place there that's corresponding to that. So we say the most important thing you can do on this earth is earn light.
Thus,
you're going to take that with you. You're not going to take your fame, your fortune, but you are going to take your light.
Thus, all the religions that tell you to live a good life or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Because it's every day. If you live that life, then you're taking that with you.
Absolutely. It's a funny thing. They say nobody likes an egotist, but the spiritual egotist is worst of all. Where you think, because I know a few things, I'm better than other people. There's some people that don't even use the word spiritual, but they're living a more spiritual life than others that, say they're spiritual or religious. The person that goes to church on Sunday, cheating their partner on Monday, because of showing up doesn't mean they're living it.
Right. So the ancients, to me, like you talk a little bit about the mystery schools in there and some of the ancient religions, and they seem to be obsessed with death and or astral travel or out of like this metaphysical these metaphysical realms. So I feel like they knew a lot more than we give them credit for when it comes to this type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, there was a day when the inner mystical tradition, the mystery schools, that sounds like you've been studying, they were honored and revered. They were part of society. If you were in a mystery school in those days, it's kind of like saying, oh, you were a top Navy SEAL. Not everybody was going to do it, but it was highly respected. Interesting, even the discussion we're having now, it wasn't that long ago. The only way you would have had that discussion is if you were in a mystery school or an ashram. But today, the interest has exploded because there's more and more people ready. So how amazing it is that we can be talking like this, broadcasting it on such a really an esoteric topic. I mean, it says what a remarkable time we live in.
It is. It's the only time when us profane are able to learn what the initiates learned.
Exactly. The time has come, as the inspiration has been telling us. There's never been a better time to grow spiritually than today. And if there's a theme of the book, it's, I'm sure many people listening to your show have had some type of a spiritual prompting. And that's not accidental. That's the divine knocking on your door, and answer the call. This is, if anything, make your spiritual life a higher priority in your life, and every part of your life is going to blossom, not just that one.
Yeah. Before I forget to ask this question, it's this conversation I was having with somebody that it seemed to click to me that there's these super smart, well-traveled, they know many languages. These people in our past 500 to, let's say, 1,500 years ago. And she was mentioning that, and you mentioned it in your book. I don't know if you actually show these examples, but that there's training, there's temples, there's in the astral realms that you can go to. And that some of these adepts have been spending years in the astral realm training, and it's only taken hours out of their physical life. And it made me realize that some of these people, they like even Paracelsus or these people know all these different languages and are well-traveled, and they know alchemy and physics and astronomy. And I mean, how do you think there's a real case to be made for people
souls,
learning?
Well, there is a lot of training that goes in. You really are jumping into the deep end of the pool here, are you? That there are these training centers in the inner worlds. The other side has a lot to do with training, because we have to think of Earth like a school. So from the metaphysical perspective, we come here essentially as students, even if we don't think of it that way. And the inner worlds are sort of the headquarters, the training centers where a lot of this area is coordinated. And sometimes we go there for special activities. For example, one of the things you notice in the book, we had to bring up the subject of reincarnation, that no matter how good a life you live, one time is simply not enough. You got to think of a lifetime like grades in school. I could score straight A's in first grade, but I'm not ready for graduate school yet. So each lifetime we're learning more, we have to reincarnate. And a very interesting thing we put in the book, for example, let's say a couple's getting ready to bear children or have a child. They will be taken to the inner worlds, believe it or not, to meet the soul that's going to be their new son or daughter. And there's an agreement on the other side. Okay, you're going to be mom, you're going to be my dad, and I'm going to be your son or daughter. So you actually, even though we don't remember it when it starts to happen, that there is an inner thing, because it's not just a baby being born. There's a soul in that body, and there's a plan. So you can't say you didn't choose your parents, and you can't say you didn't choose your kids, because you did.
Does anyone remember?
Oh yeah. Well, again, it's funny. I know I want to talk a little bit about Barbara tonight. She actually does bring back memory of the souls of her two children coming in saying, "We want you to be our mother." That must have been a pretty wild experience, to go through that, but sometimes it can be brought in. Let me just talk a moment about Barbara, because her skills are so phenomenal. 3 years old, she was starting to see auras, and this is in the Depression era. No one was talking about things like that. Her father, a Greek Orthodox priest, he also used to build churches, so they would travel all over the country on almost next to nothing. 6 kids the mom had to raise. But when she was 11, she started getting her first training from someone that could also see the aura. Many years later, when they moved to California, she got another training from another advanced mystic to teach, to prepare her to teach. So this was a very slow, gradual process. And when I started with her many years ago, I started as a student, and I was very happy with that. But I didn't realize she was slowly grooming me to eventually, carry this torch and continue the teaching work. But it's been very gradual. Nothing's happened like my leapfrog. The only leapfrog was my own spiritual awakening. I came to LA, California, to pursue a career in film and television, and things were going pretty good. And I was having these sort of, I didn't even know what the word metaphysics was at that point. I wasn't against it. I just didn't know what it was. But I was having what I call these inspirational moments, kind of heightened awareness, insights, clarity. They were beautiful, but they kind of came and went without me controlling anything. Eventually, they became so strong, it led to my awakening. And again, I still didn't have a name for it. And then when I realized it was metaphysics, I couldn't stop, studying and researching and doing everything I could. Fortunately, a year later, I met Barbara at a dinner party. My first meditation was with her. And then I just started pouring out. I had so much on my mind. I thought it was a nice conversation. She says I was interrogating her, but eventually I realized, oh my God, the woman's talking from experience. This is the one I have to study with. And that kind of got the whole road going. So we all come from our own place with this. But again, where they say follow your bliss, when you follow the things that excite you the most, even though there may be twists and turns in the road, it'll eventually lead you where you need to go.
So did you end up forgetting the whole Hollywood movies, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Did you lose interest in all that at all, or?
Oh, I really loved it. I thought it was, but this was like, I had to do this, and at first I thought I could do the two together, but I like to joke, movies is a jealous mistress. She wants all of you. And, so it started. And when I started saying what I was interested in, some of my film buddies thought I lost my mind. So it wasn't gelling together. And then I realized, now this isn't for everybody, by the way, because I could have had a career in film and personally pursued my spiritual interests. But it was becoming clear my career was supposed to be in metaphysics. So that was really the change. Actually, there's a great story that Barbara tells about, she was there in the golden age of Hollywood, and she was friends with like Cecil B. DeMille, the big filmmaker. And when she went to his set and saw him for the first time, she saw immediately he had the mystic sight, and he saw it in her. And that's not in any of his biographies. And they became like instant friends. And, look at his subjects like, the Ten Commandments. I know today we think, oh, it's a little dated. But at the time, that movie, people literally wrote to him saying, thank you. I found my spiritual life again. I found God again.
Wow.
So we all express it in different ways. It doesn't have to be as a teacher, but the goal is to bring that spirit power, whatever you have, into everything you do.
Wow, that's fascinating. And now you teach, just to continue on with that vein, you have a place in Encinita where you teach classes.
Right.
And
Right.
do you want to talk about that?
We're global, so you can join online. We were doing video long before the Zoom era started, where everybody realized, hey, I can do a conference call. But we also have an in-person training center as well. We do what we call sort of blended learning, where you can be in person and online. And, training in metaphysics, I say it's a little bit like learning a musical instrument or learning a language. It takes time. You don't get good at it overnight. So there are these weekly classes. It started with Barbara doing them many years ago, and then we had like this encyclopedia of notes. And eventually we started to, write the books and write the training manuals and organize the teachings. And so now we have these different levels of training. And I think one of the best thing about it also is just the people. You're working with such wonderful people, and they want to better their lives. I mean, there aren't that many professions where that's the end goal,
It seems to me like the people that are into metaphysics, they're more grounded than you would think. And they're take personal accountability, and they want to improve They want to look at themselves. They want to grow.
Yeah, they're taking more. And I think there's a blossoming, there's a maturity in the whole field. When Barbara started, everything was like psychic. Oh, they thought she was a psychic and everything. So they were kind of caught by the phenomenal stuff a bit, but now I think, like you're saying, it's more mature now. It's also more mainstream. I mean, you got yoga in grade school now. I mean, could you imagine that even 20 years ago? Yeah.
So I do have to ask about the Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society. I mean, they seem to be warning against any of this kind of opening yourself up, even yoga. I mean, even yoga, they were like warning against yoga unless you were an adept or unless you were initiated. Like, be careful about any kind of astral travel, any kind of connection with the divine. I mean, how do you guys approach that?
Maybe differentiator. Yeah, actually, boy, you really have an interesting question here. So we were sharing, the other side has many dimensions to it. Not all of them are beautiful. Okay, not all of them are enlightening. Not all of them are opening you up to the divine life. So actually, interestingly enough, you mentioned a lot the astral. There's some very developed, wonderful places in the astral, but there are also some very primitive, undeveloped levels in the astral. So what you really want to do is get your inspiration from beyond the astral. You want to get it from the heavenly. So the psychic part of you is connected to the astral. But the problem with that is the psychic part of you is really no more developed than you. And it's not really going up, it's sort of going sideways. So what they're trying to say is, don't get caught in the psychic belt. Barbara used to say, why are you stopping at the 6th floor when you can go to the penthouse? You want to go to the divine source. It's a little harder to reach that source, maybe not as sensational at first, but that's where you're going to get the real answers. Because, in the book, we share with you some of the dangers of the psychic stuff and how you can pull from the lower and not even realize that's what's happening. So there is a cautionary tale here. Not everything labeled spiritual is in fact spiritual or in fact good for you. There's false prophets in every, there's con people in every field, and they're false prophets. And especially if someone smells money or advantage, they may jump on it and try to take advantage of people that don't quite understand.
And part of the practice must be to enhance discernment.
Absolutely. That's the whole key. But isn't that in everything? Look at today. Aren't we in a process of having to discern almost anything right now? Yeah. We're challenging just about everything at this moment.
Yeah.
But it is a point to say, you're right. Discerning is a choice, right? You have to, here's the fool's gold. Here's the shiny stuff that's fool's gold. Here's the real McCoy. You have to learn the difference between the two. And sometimes you'll make a mistake, but you'll learn from the mistake. Okay, I'm not buying that stuff again. That's not the real stuff. This is the real stuff. So we will make mistakes. There's nothing wrong. Who gets through school without making a mistake? But we want to learn from them. We want to learn from those mistakes.
What about people that have troubles with attacks from those realms that maybe they don't even realize they're coming from those realms, but maybe it's sleep paralysis type stuff, demonic entities or shadow people. Because you mentioned free will. Like whenever free will comes up, I think, well, these people don't choose to be attacked by these entities,
No. I mean, no one says, hey, I invite the entities into, no, they don't do that, obviously. But two things very interesting. Number one of the spiritual laws, because, our first book is all on the aura, change your aura, change your life, is nothing or no one can enter your aura unless somewhere you're permitting it to happen. There has to be an open door somewhere.
Like the vampire being invited in kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, in other words, if I open up to anger and hatred and, those are lower emotional energies. And if I'm not careful, that can trigger, an invitation to an unpleasant energy. The other thing is there is such a thing as spiritual protection, where you can put golden light around you. You want to keep your mind and heart and consciousness in a strong place. As a matter of fact, we recommend putting the light around your bed at night before you sleep. Because yes, when you're sleeping, you're kind of opening up, you're relaxing. And yeah, if there's something that's not the greatest thing nearby, you don't want to accidentally, connect into it.
That's good. So there's some protection things you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we learn to protect ourselves a little bit, right? When we go on life, and unfortunately, there's some psychic things we have to be careful of as well.
Yeah. Darren, do you got any questions at all? Or?
No, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's
taking the load here.
let's get into
Yeah.
some of these realms are very interesting because they,
Okay.
you know, you can get into the, like I said, the learning academies in a way, temples
right.
and all this kind of stuff. I mean,
Right. Well, first of all, I think as we say, you know, we all have a glorious destiny. I mean, if anyone thinks their life is worthless or it's all hopeless, or, you know, sometimes we fall into these despondent states. And that's just our own, you know, our own feeling of things. Really, the thing we have to all realize first is we're not our body, we're not our mind, we're not even the light of our aura. We're this immortal spark of life that we call the soul. And the soul is precious and it's divine. And it came from, you know, the highest celestial kingdom. Now, it was immersed, like literally planting a seed in the ground. It was immersed in creation so that seed could grow. So all that we're going through now is really part of a growing process. And as we go through these planes, you know, if I ask 20 people now that are spiritually minded, what does it mean to grow spiritually? I guarantee you I get 20 different answers. But from the metaphysical perspective and what we're sharing in the book, growth has a very specific definition. It's literally growing through these various dimensions of life. So we are all destined for heaven. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And each dimension has its own lessons. Now, the beauty is what you're saying is these lessons are things we're dealing with now. For example, the astral worlds. One of the basic lessons of the astral worlds is to master your desire nature. What do you desire?
How many go arounds does it take? Does that depend on how well you learn the lessons? Do some people take longer than others?
It's interesting. The arc, and I know this is going to sound like a big number when I first share it, but the arc from our first steps in clay feet when we were sort of in the caveman days to reaching that pinnacle is about 800 incarnations.
wow.
Some do it a little bit sooner, like you say. Some are just a little bit more on the ball. Some take a little longer. They're a little bit more of the stragglers because we do have free will and we can cooperate with the plan, or we can say, forget about it, you know. But eventually we realize life is a lot more fun when we cooperate with the plan. It's just like if I'm jumping in the water and I'm splashing around and I can't swim, after a while I'm going to get bored with that. I better just learn the laws of the water so I can swim. You know, and that's really what the higher life is all about.
So in the 40, 50,000 year range.
Well, how long? Again, that, you know, remember, there's also time on the other side. So you tend to spend, let's say if I had 100 years on this life, again, this is, I don't want to, you know, it can definitely vary, but you could spend 100 years on the other side.
In between.
You don't spend thousands because you'd lose touch with the earth. Now, the only time you come back quickly is if you really did die prematurely. You know, some people, it's their karmic destiny to die young. Other times, it doesn't happen. So let's say after World War II and all the deaths and all that happened there, a lot of people reincarnated really quick. I think there's an interesting book that came out about that where people were remembering, you know, some pretty grim things that were happening. These were little kids talking about this. And so they must have been remembering something. So they come back quickly because they didn't have the chance to complete, you know, what they had started. So it really depends on what they call your karmic chart. So we do come in with unfinished business. We do have, our talents are not accidental. Our weaknesses are not accidental. You're supposed to accentuate the positive, like the song, eliminate the negative. You know, if some people come in with a great, you know, voice or something like that, but they don't pursue it, that's kind of a shame because that didn't come out of nowhere. You know, doesn't mean you have to be a full-fledged opera singer, but you should do something with your talent.
What about the this is going to be a difficult question. The elite, the initiated, the people that have learned how to recognize past lives and move forward in maybe even in bloodlines, but move forward in these secret societies, let's say, that are able to bring their past with them to help control the world, or to help. I do feel like that's a possibility right now.
Oh, there's a lot of those people around now. So interesting you mentioned those societies. Again, in the ancient days, the centers were well known, but during, especially Europe, in the period of time where that kind of thing wasn't accepted, the societies had to be kind of secret, but they were still very influential in politics and business and
culture.
You could say, for example, Europe probably wouldn't have had its golden age without those societies, that were guiding things in the background. So those were developed souls that came in to carry major missions, and who knows some of the good that they did, and some of them are very famous. It's funny, you can have a very advanced soul, but they may not know their own spiritual status. So for example, in Abraham Lincoln, the higher shared, was a heavenly soul that came in, but he did not come in with the awareness of that status, because it probably would have interfered. I couldn't imagine being fully awakened and being involved in all that political environment of that day. He probably would have lost his mind. He almost did anyway, But it was able to look at this was such a milestone, not just for the United States, but for humanity. Legalized slavery was a done deal after that era. So that was a major mission. Same with something like an Albert Einstein, But then you have others that come in, a Buddha or something like that fully awakened, gets fully awakened and is at high advance. And yes, they could start a world movement, as he did, But even he had to go through his learning experience, right? He wasn't like just automatically born like that. He had to go through the whole process.
Well, what about darker forces? Let's say, is there a risk that they are coming in as well and taking over things as they can? You mean dark energy, dark force?
Well, wow.
Evil, good and evil, I guess. I don't know. You can call it evil.
Well, there is evil. I hate to say there is evil influence. I don't think we have to. It's not a surprise to know there is evil influence in the world. But what can happen is some of these advanced souls can get tempted. They can get pulled off the path, especially when they're not fully yet established. They can get seduced. It was very interesting. I don't know whether it was seduced by the dark, but Max Heindel, when he started his leadership in the Rosicrucians, the holy ones came in from the other side, and they said, we were preparing somebody else, but he failed his tests, so we're coming to you now.
Wow. Well,
so it's not a guarantee, It's not a guarantee.
Actually, well, you guys even have that example in the book about that lady, the woman who was, going through the Egyptian mystery schools, and she got tempted and taken into the
dark side.
The dark side, yeah.
Yeah, it does happen, and it's a lesson. It's a lesson. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take your talents for granted. Don't take your wealth for granted. None of this comes from us. It comes through us. But if the ego gets involved and thinks, the cat's meow. Barbara had a great story when she was a teenager. Her spiritual talents were opening so fast she said at one point, I thought I was pretty hot stuff. I could sit in class. I knew what the question the teacher was going to ask. I knew the answer before she even asked the question, And one morning she woke up and all the talents were gone. Everything.
Wow.
No oracy, no connection to the higher, nothing. First, she couldn't figure out what was going on. She said it lasted for about 2 weeks. And then she realized, oh, wow, this is them. They're teaching me something. They're saying my gifts aren't coming from me. They're coming through me.
She was taking them for granted.
Exactly. Yeah. And she said, I never took it for granted ever again. And I never seen her do it ever. The whole time. I've known her 37 years now and never seen her take her talents. As a matter of fact, she would call me and says, if you ever see me sitting on my laurels, you call me on it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about Barbara and her teacher too.
Yeah. So, there's so many great stories. I have to tell one just for fun. So as I mentioned, her father was a Greek priest. and he used to build churches, so they were prominent in the Greek community. And one time, she was only 4 years old, and they went to a cathedral, it was a cathedral, I think, or a very large church where the archbishop was there. They were inaugurating this whole building. It was a huge deal, and everybody was there. And of course, Barbara and the family were prominently there. And little 4-year-old Barbara still can't understand what she's seeing, but she's looking at the aura of the archbishop, and she sees not these beautiful colors, but these dark, grotesque colors around him. And she's like, what's going on here? But the bishops on either side of him had these beautiful colors. So at the end, you're supposed to kiss the hand, in this case, the archbishop. Little 4-year-old Barbara blurts out in front of the whole group, oh, no, I'm not kissing his hand. He's a monster. He eats children.
Wow.
So she learned to start to keep quiet about that kind of stuff. And when she was 11, she was in a theater group, and the leader was Dorothy Lamaze. She was this theater stock company owner. And one Saturday, she just come into my private area, my home. I want to talk to you. And she thought, oh, she's going to drop me from the troop. And basically, Dorothy confronted her and said, you can see the aura, can't you? And Barbara's mouth drops. Is that what it's called? And then she said, I'm a Hermetic scientist. My mother, grandmother are both Hermetic scientists. I see the aura like you. And I want to teach about your gifts. And so she started training her in understanding what the different colors meant and all of that. So that started to empower her. The other woman she studied with, Inez. Inez was already, a very awakened mystic, but she never went on there's the kind of secret stuff. She never went on the public platform. She only had these closed classes. And so when they started, right away, Inez saw the potential. And she would say to Barbara, you're meant to go into the public. Because at that point, again, talking about the aura, it was like, come on, are you kidding? It was before even Kirlian photography, But this woman, and there's a beautiful story in the book where they had this tremendous out-of-body experience together. They both went out of their body together. And she was training Barbara in the heaven worlds, helping to build her devotion to the divine. So they had many experiences like that until basically Barbara was ready to go on her own and really start, teaching the work, which she did in the 1970s. I met her in the 1980s. Again, I was only like 2-3 years in LA, and suddenly all this other stuff was happening to me. And she was, interestingly enough, just restarting her classes. She had taken a sabbatical, so the timing was great. We kind of came together, and it was just out of the box. We started working together, writing together, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow, that's fantastic.
You mentioned Abraham Lincoln. Can you give us any other modern or modernish examples of these incarnations?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's obvious ones like Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa. They're definitely heavenly souls. They can come in through religious. Sometimes they do come in like Mother Teresa because she's on that mission. Definitely, they have said, Albert Einstein was definitely a soul from the heaven worlds. Not all the popes, but John Paul was from the heaven worlds as well. Now, interesting, some of them, like, for example, Paramahansa Yogananda, he was from what we call the interplanetary world. So these are the realms, at least in his lifetime as Yogananda. That was years ago. We don't know exactly where he is now. And those are the realms between the astral and the heavenly. So he was but yet his teacher, Sri Yukteswar, was a heavenly soul. So, and I don't know the reasons exactly, but I always have thought, well, Yogananda had to break so much ground. So being a little bit, the interplanetary, maybe people could relate to him better. And it was an easier connection because he was remarkably successful. Probably of the early East Indian gurus or swamis that came over, he was the most successful. One of his big places is here in Encinitas. I like to joke that Encinitas has 2 cardinal virtues, yoga and surfing, Yeah.
Is there anything else from your book that we should touch on before we run out of time?
Well, boy, there's so much to talk about, but definitely, you hit so much about the practical aspects to really focus on developing a connection. If you were to realize again that all the inspiration you're getting is coming from those inner worlds, then it means that the more you start connect with them, the better. And you did talk about the cautionary tale too. Some people, when they get so excited with the spiritual, they want to just accept anything and everybody, but just be, like you said, be discerning. Is it bringing out the best in you? Is it, obviously you don't want to do anything that questions your ethical nature. Barbara's story about the woman that was caught up with a Jim Jones. What a horrifying story that was, And
Jim Jones, like Dallas Cowboys owner Jim Jones? No, that's like Jerry Jones.
Jim Jones massacre. The Jim Jones massacre.
The Jim Jones massacre? I've never heard of this.
Barbara went there and tried to take a couple people, tried to say warn a couple people. Right. And I think maybe you should tell the story if
well, okay. I'll just again I don't want to leave on this sad note, but basically Jim Jones was sort of this preacher, socialist, I don't know what you want to call him, but he was up in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and the tragedy was as the authorities were starting to catch up with him, he decided to flee the country. He went to Guyana. He brought a lot of his group there and started a commune there. And some of the family members were getting very worried about their loved ones. So they sent the state representative down, and basically some of the people in the commune killed him. Yeah. And then they knew, it was all over. And Jim Jones was half insane by then. He basically told all his followers to take this electric Kool-Aid and commit mass suicide.
Oh, he's the Kool-Aid guy?
Yeah, he's the Kool-Aid guy. 800 people died that day.
They all drank the Kool-Aid? Did he drink the Kool-Aid?
Well, he was dead. I don't know if it was from the Kool-Aid or from something else, but they found him dead too. Yeah. So, but Barbara knew one of the women.
I can't even get 800 people to support.
Well, he must have had a certain magnetism, right, to be able to do that. But back when, Barbara had a student was in the group, and she went to, she knew something was wrong, and she went to one of the meetings in San Francisco, and she said, boy, the minute I saw him and saw his aura, I knew this guy was no good. He had done terrible things, including probably murder. And she started to leave. Interesting enough, she said there was this big bruiser at the door, says, nobody leaves a Jim Jones rally. And she said, you want to make a bet? You watch me. And she left. Her friend was insulted, but she called her up that night and says, please get away from him. He's absolutely no good. She said, Barbie, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, not only did she go down to Guyana, she brought her family, and she convinced another family to go down there. And I guess while they were down there, her aunt died. Joan said, go back to the States, get the money, and come back. While she was in the States, her family and her friend's family, they all died. But she lived.
Yeah.
Of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Of the Kool-Aid. Yeah, the cyanide, whatever they put in the Kool-Aid. Yeah, the cyanide, yeah. It's a horrible story, and they're still trying to.
Because they caught the spaceship, right? Was that the?
No, that's
here. I hate to say that happened here in Rancho Santa Fe.
Oh, I'm mixing up my cults. They were going
on the spaceship. That was Heaven's Gate people. 50 people committed suicide on that one.
Did they drink Kool-Aid too? What did they?
No,
do?
They had the purple shoes, I think, or something.
How did they do it? I don't remember, but it was nasty. I hate to say it was nearby us. It is very.
California is very famous for cults.
Well, and this is a very wealthy area. It happened in Rancho Santa Fe, where all
and
the
communes too.
Yeah, well, I guess we're the cutting edge of things here, and sometimes it works on the good end.
Oh, that's funny.
Because like Manson and all that was in California too, wasn't it?
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, let's finish off on a high note, on an enlightenment note, or on the heavenly realm at least.
Well, the point is, heaven is real. Okay, it's not a fantasy. It's not make-up land, and you are receiving from it now. You are receiving the ideas that are flowing, that are truly helping you in your life, are coming from the heaven worlds. So the goal is start connecting with heaven now. Start, if you're not meditating, I hope you're going to start to try practicing it. They've shown even if you meditate every day, 30 minutes for 3 months, discernible change in your brain, and it will help you to get connected to these inner realms and be a part of them.
And I guess the other message is you don't have to go in order, astral, heaven. You can go right to heaven.
Well, you can connect from heaven. You will evolve through those planes, but the goal is you need sort of like the source to help sort of pull you up, so that you're coming from the higher as you're evolving through these astral planes and all that's encompassed in them, because the astral is very important. You accomplish a lot of things there. You drop your lower nature, you gain your enlightenment, all those things happen in the astral worlds. So they are important, and they're very, near us right now. So they're not, they're not the heaven worlds, but they're close to us right now. Yeah.
Right on. Well, this has been super fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Do you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, Darren, at the end, or final questions? Or
Well, I'm thinking about the heaven world. Is that like is that the same as the astral realm?
no, it's
Those
No,
are
it's
two
different.
different
It's different.
places.
Yeah, so the astral has these mixed levels, but the heavenly is all developed. It's all enlightened. As a matter of fact, bring up Blavatsky again. She didn't quite use the word heaven, but they asked her, when you get to those high planes, you've reached perfection. Is it over? Are you, on clouds playing harps, or what happens, when you get there? And I love her answer. Said, no, you grow from perfection to perfection. You reach one. It's like you climb Mount Everest. And you say, hey, I did it. And then you look back and you realize, oh my God, there's another mountain twice as big as Mount Everest. But I think that's a great idea, because the adventure never ends. I would hate to think we reach this static place and then it would get boring, as beautiful as it may be. But since life is an adventure, hopefully it keeps going on.
So are we talking about like heaven from the Bible, or is this like a heaven that's more overarching to
heaven
more
from
of an
all
idea from
heaven
everything?
Yeah,
like,
it's really interesting, but the idea of heaven can be traced all the way back to the Mesopotamia times, and even the specific 7 heavens. So the Christian Bible has kind of probably our most popularized understanding of heaven comes from the Christian, but even specifically, Emanuel Swedenborg, in the 1600s, he was a theologian and a mystic, and his depiction of the heaven worlds even holds true to today. And he kind of set the bar. But really, when you study, there are heavenly traditions in almost all the mystical teachings. Again, we're interpreting them through the religious veil, but we have to understand that it is a real place. And again, it's not a religious, I'll only go there if I'm religious. You go there when you've earned the power to be able to go there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
is there any zodiac signs that are closer than others? Does that ever play into it or so? Because remember some people talking to us about how the zodiac was like a cycle, and you could like work your way through that, and you had to get through that before.
Well, that's a fascinating study, the esoteric astrology, because that's about the rhythm of the cosmos, right? Because the cosmos is in motion, so there's a rhythm to our unfoldment, and you're absolutely right. There are these cycles of unfoldment, and the zodiac energy is coming from the heavenly realms as well. Absolutely. The astrology, it's very interesting. We see that, for example, the geocentric model of the universe, and we say, hey, that's outgrown. We know the Earth's not the center of the universe. But the mystics used that model as a veiled allegory of our ascent from Earth-based consciousness to the heavenly consciousness and the levels it takes to get there. So it is interesting that, yes, we're outgrowing some misunderstandings of, the past, but also the ancients had a lot of knowledge. They knew, for example, the Earth revolved around the sun. They just couldn't prove it, and you couldn't talk about it openly because you'd probably get ostracized. I think some did. There was a couple of Greek philosophers that tried to, and nobody believed them. But
it seems like the Egyptians were just open to it.
Yeah, they were. The Egyptians had some of the most advanced mystery schools of all time. People talk about the pyramid. The Great Pyramid was built by aliens and all that kind of stuff. Who could have that kind of brain power back then? But they don't realize the initiates did have that brain power back then. They were fully capable of doing that stuff. And from what we understand, that Great Pyramid was originally a pyramid of initiation. That pyramid was used where the initiates would go through their grand initiations. And
is that what the cathedrals were for too?
Well, in a religious sense, yes, the same thing. The grand. I mean, today the monoliths are the monoliths of finance, right? The high rises and all of that. But in other times, the monoliths were either the religious or the mystical, because those are the things that were highly valued. We promote the things we value most. Right now, we seem to put a high premium on money, and accumulating wealth, and that's important. But they also teach us one of the great lessons on the planet right now is to put divine above money, because once we can harness the energy of the earth energy, but for a spiritual purpose and not just selfish gain, we're going to enter a whole new era of spiritual development as a world. And that's the direction we're going in. People like to paint the glass half empty, but if you look at the last 100 years, how much better overall the conditions of life were compared to 100 years ago. Yeah, we have a long ways to go, but we've come a long ways.
Yeah.
And we need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a website or social media, anything like that, where our listeners can track you down?
Our organization is Spiritual Arts Institute, spiritualarts.org. We're a nonprofit. And if you just type in Spiritual Arts Institute, you can go to our website or our social media page. And we're having classes and workshops coming up. Our foundational course, Change Your Life, teaches you how to meditate with divine light. We have the whole 7 Arts training program, of which we're talking today, is one of the courses, how to help you evolve through the planes. And the whole foundation, everything we do is meditating with divine light to help you grow spiritually. Our motto is helping souls grow.
Awesome. Sounds fantastic. We'll put it all in the show notes and we'll let you know when it comes out.
Great. All right.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I loved your book, and it was a great chat.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Dimitri.
Right on, Dimitri. Thanks for coming on the show.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye.
And that was our chat.
Well,
What'd you think?
Yeah, it was good. What'd you think?
Yeah, we're on a real Jesus-y tear lately. I guess this one was less Jesus-y.
Oh my God, yeah, way less.
Much less
Forget
Jesus-y.
that heaven and Jesus don't.
I think I'm scared of Jesus.
We got to read that out. We got to read that in the next intro or something. We got some feedback.
I got it
from
handy.
Grimerica Outlawed. Oh yeah, okay. Read
You want to just read it now?
Sure, if you want. Yeah, but I'm gonna read it later too.
Or you can read it twice?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Because I want to read on the Outlawed show. It's from the Outlawed show.
Didn't I send it to you?
Yeah. See, now I got it right here, and then he can't find it.
Well, I got it right here. I sent it to you. You're all texty again. You're texting more than you have been when you were sick and dying. America Outlawed. New reviews. 3 stars. Awesome guests. They have great guests, but for some reason, the hosts are afraid of Jesus. It's pretty embarrassingly immature.
I mean, I don't know if that's immature. I mean, Jesus.
Is it because we don't believe?
We're not bringing him into our lives. That's how I think that's what they mean. Because we were resisting Jesus. We were overtly resisting bringing Jesus into our lives.
Well, you were bringing Jesus people on the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a bunch of different different people talking about it. I mean, both sides of the house. So how can we be scared of it if we're approaching it from all sides? But I mean,
we chickened out at the last minute
because we haven't brought it. We haven't
Someone
accepted
messaged
it
the other
into our
day
lives.
that part of the show should be called Graham Dunlop's Search for God.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good.
That
Nice.
could be a segment.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. See?
There it is.
Who is he? Did you find him?
You know what I want to know?
Uh-oh.
How to go learn for a couple years in the astral realm and then come back 2 hours later.
Well, let's just run upstairs. I got you.
You got me? You got me covered? You got me
Yeah,
covered?
I got you
No,
covered.
I mean, really.
I can't. You're clean and sober.
Is it too late
For what?
to learn that?
How to what? Smoke DMT?
Dude, no, to go to the astral realm and learn
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think so.
for a long time. Like spend
But
years
here's the
there.
thing. Even if you figure it out when you're like 75, now you have all the time in the world to spend in the astral realm.
That's right. Years at a time. You could do years at a time in the schools, learning stuff.
Just while you're sleeping.
Yeah. You come back 2 hours later. Just all night. One night, you just spend years learning.
Well, that would be something. Do you think you'd wake up tired?
Oh, you'd be exhausted. Yeah, it'd take you a couple weeks to catch up.
Like you're burning. Where's the energy coming from?
Yeah.
Maybe you're tapping into free energy
Yeah, maybe.
to run you.
Yeah, to run you.
Well, your body just withers away.
Run you in that realm, yeah. My body, I feel like my body's withering away right now.
In all the wrong places. Your arms look a little smaller.
Oh, I've lost like 18 pounds probably.
Now you gotta start running.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
I think I'm gonna start running.
I tried working a few hours a day here, and as I almost
What do you do when it's
did too
cold
much.
though? I overdid it.
Overdid it. Yeah, I'm exhausted tonight.
Well,
Barely podcast.
I mean, a couple weeks in the house, I was winded. Plus,
Yeah.
plus the COVID probably does it a bit too. But
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in the house a while.
What does that have to do with being winded?
Well, I'm just saying, after me being in the house for 2 weeks because of the quarantine and everything. I mean, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago now or whatever, when we were in Washington, I was climbing mountains and running down them and jumping in the water. And then, I go back to work after 2 weeks in the house and like going up to the 6th floor. I'm like, whew. I'm not only winded, but I feel it in my legs too.
Yeah.
I can like feel the burn. And you've just been, you're recently into the new life, which you've embraced. And but you did go out painting already once and it was fine.
When?
Before COVID.
Oh yeah. That
You
was
did, like,
good.
2
Yeah.
weeks
Oh yeah,
straight.
no, that was 100%. That was fine, 100%. No, it's now. It's oof. It's a bit much.
You gotta work for it. You gotta get after it.
Yeah.
We should go trail running.
Oh, I can't even imagine. No, I need to rest.
Remember
still.
you used to make fun of O'Leary for tumbling down the hill?
Yeah, I used to run down mountains.
I don't know how
I
you
don't
could
think
do
my
it in
legs
those
could
little
do it.
shoes. Even with those claws you guys used to strap on your feet. O'Leary tumbling down the hill. He missed like a week of work because of that.
He broke both of his ankles, or he sprained both of his ankles on two different accidents.
Did you have to carry him out? Did you have to carry him out?
I think I had to help him out.
You're in a survival situation.
Just about, yeah. I mean, I saw him parallel to the ground. I look back and I see him flying through the air.
I wonder whatever happened to him. I hope
I shouldn't have set the pace, really.
Yeah.
I should let him go first.
you gotta set your own pace. It's up to him to decide whether or not he can keep
I
up.
guess.
This is the problem: is when people are pushing themselves to catch up to you,
Yeah.
and they fall. There's nothing worse than falling when you're running down a hill, especially if you're going like full tilt. Sometimes when I get going, I'm just like, "Oof." If something fails here,
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
gonna
what's so
be a
exciting
fucking
about
tumble.
it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what's so exciting. Every footfall matters.
You're like
every
you're completely
every
in the
placement
moment.
matters.
You're
You are
watching
completely
exactly where every fucking foot's gonna.
Exactly.
And with those new boots that fucking tie into your ankles, so they give you some, so you can actually roll it a little bit, and it's all right.
I don't like that. I like the shoes.
I don't know how you can do it in those shoes. It's no wonder he broke both his ankles. All right,
No, he
Grimerica.
sprained both. I don't want to be
Sprained?
misinformation.
He's a broken man. Grimerica.ca/support. If you can, when you can. We can't do this without you guys. We love you. I mean, we've been doing this 8-9 years now. It'll be going on 9 years. We're heading into winter. All the bills come up. This is a full-time gig now for Graham. So, I mean, all that winter expenses come along. Grimerica.ca/support. If you guys want to jump on the supporter bandwagon, help us get up to maybe 800 supporters. I mean, if they can get 800 people to drink the Kool-Aid, we can't get 800 people to click the fucking monthly support link. Help us change that statistic. Grimerica.ca/support. Adultbrain.ca if you want to check out all the audiobooks Graham's been doing. The Religion of the Chinese is officially out now.
Nice.
Through the Magic Door. ISIS Unveiled, Volume 1.
Did the Magic Doors out?
Yeah. Well, and we just talked about all the Blavatsky stuff. See ISIS Unveiled, 35 hours. Secret Doctrine, Volume 1, 35 hours.
Was ISIS
Secret
unveiled that long?
It was 30 maybe.
30 hours? Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. That was a big book, yeah.
There's about 150 hours of Graham reading Blavatsky.
Oh.
And there's some great mispronunciations in there, too. I mean, they're,
Oh,
they're
yeah,
worth
there's
the
some-
price of fucking admission.
Just to
on
check
their
it
own.
out, just to make fun of me.
Things go oury sometimes. I think that's it. Spam Graham. Graham at Grimerica.com. Join the chats. Grimerica.ca/chats. If you got to get off this social media bullshit and get into the chats. I think that's about it. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week. Let's sign you out of Zoom again.
Oh. What the? Are we still live?
We're still live. We should say.
Oh, hey. Yeah, thanks.
I didn't hit stop on the recording. Yeah,
boy.
we're still live.
We're having major Zoom issues.
Zoom alone.
Yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry I can't pay attention to the chats.
Thanks for tuning into the
but
live
thanks.
show. Oh, we had a question too, and we didn't know.
Ah, sorry, we had a question. Damn it. He asked if there was going to be questions.
We said no and then didn't check. They asked if you're feeling better.
I'm feeling better. Almost 100%, but not quite. Got to get my voice back.
95%.
I can't wait to get my voice back.
You should try some singing in the shower.
I don't think that'll make it worse.
Think so?
Yeah.
They come from the diaphragm.
It's my that hurt.
I've
That
become
hurt right
quite
there.
the duck call connoisseur. Maybe I should do an episode of me doing duck calls. I have quite the array of calls.
Wow.
No? No. Thanks for tuning in to the live show, guys. We'll be back next Tuesday. I don't know with who, but with someone great. It'll be great. Well, didn't we say we might try and sneak in Brandon?
Yeah, we might try, yeah.
We might try and sneak in Brandon Powell next week if he's available. Yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.